So, and I've been involved in composability and some of these kinds of topics for many, many years. And I think, let me see if I can frame this, because I think you see that the show floor is all about these 4 transformation areas and all those kinds of good things, and why, right? Well, I think the central thesis of this is that it's really all about the apps and data. Duh, it's all about the apps and data, right? Pretty obvious kind of a statement. And Meg talks a lot about the idea economy, the notion that in this digital world, if you have an idea, in the past you had to kind of brick and mortar and hem and claw and set it up and configure it and bring it in and do all kinds of backflips to actually move that forward from an information processing perspective. In today's world, when you have an idea, you can go from that idea directly to a digital implementation in a very fast, fluid way. And part of what we need to do to support that idea economy, that notion that we're digitizing our planes, our trains, our automobiles, we're putting sensors and intelligence not just in the data center but out into the world, is we have to build products, software, services to enable that idea economy, to enable the applications and the data to flow and to really allow for business to drive to the speed that they need to drive to compete in this environment. So as we think about that new economy, that new style of business, it does require us to kind of think outside the box, not so much about the technology and the bits and the bytes, but about the outcomes, about not only the outcomes, but how do we ensure that those outcomes don't open up new forms of risk, because again, we're digitizing everything. One of my latest projects across Hewlett Packard Enterprise was working on the Internet of Things. And anybody notice the digital, the windmills and stuff like that, right? That was one of the solutions that we worked on. And this notion that we're putting sensors in our cars and our windmills, that we're putting the telemetry, that we're connecting it to big data so that we can get actionable insights and control things is part of that idea economy. It's also part of the challenge that we have in proactively managing risk. It's also part of the challenge we have in not just understanding how to connect the things, but how to connect the things contextually, right? I know your location, I know something about you, I can deliver a better experience, I can deliver more content, more value because of that context. And that does require that we start to think about digitizing everything, connecting everything, and moving this thing forward. So, we call this new style of business, and that requires this new style of IT. This new style of IT then requires transformation. And transformation, as we all know, is a stepwise process. It's a process that you start and you sort of move forward in what I would call evolutionary model, fits and starts. You make some big progress, then for a while nothing happens, and you leap forward again. If you look at what we've been doing in infrastructure, for instance, we've been talking about convergence for quite a while. We made some big leaps in the way that our compute, our storage, our networking work together as a system, work together to provide a more agile environment. And then we started to refine that. We started to refine it in a variety of big and small ways. Now we're taking another leap with composability, okay? And that leap will again continue to get refined, continue to get richer and more focused. And the 4 transformation areas that we talked about, and you've heard a lot about, and that the whole show is really organized around, are this notion of transforming to a hybrid infrastructure, hybrid cloud, hybrid infrastructure thinking, the ability to do service delivery at your site, in a managed VPN site or in a public site, to be able to protect those digital assets no matter where they are, whether they're in the data center behind your firewall, whether they're in a public or managed cloud environment, whether out in the wild in an Internet of Things type of capacity. enabling the workplace, which is all about this notion that no matter where I go and what I'm doing, I expect to be connected. I expect to be able to not just be connected, but be contextually connected. And to, if I opt in, to have that location and that information used in service of the things that I want and need as I travel from my business to my consumer life. And then this notion of empowering the data-driven organization. The notion that the analog, the digital, the machine-to-machine, the human data that is being collected as we're connected and interacting with all of these digital environments is not only useful, but critical to business outcomes and business decisions to better experience both from a consumer and a business perspective. You can see that in the Internet of Things with the enormous interest that that is fueling, particularly within the industrial environment. We talk about the Internet of Things as being the Internet of very interesting things, right? If your wristwatch goes down, not a big problem. If a General Electric turbine goes down, big problem, right? Big cost in terms of those kinds of things. So predictive maintenance and context-aware capabilities are becoming not just interesting, but a core part of what our business customers are looking for as they digitize their environment. And the transformation area that we're really focused on with Synergy is really this notion of transforming to a hybrid infrastructure environment. Now, when we talk about hybrid infrastructure, and we talk about that, it's a journey, right? Many of your readers, many of the folks that you engage with have been on that journey for quite a few years, right? Starting with consolidation, starting with virtualization, starting with converging different aspects of physical machines into more logical, abstract components that can be more automated and configured and those kinds of things. As we move forward, that next step is then to automate and to orchestrate, to introduce more and more automation faster and faster. Just before this session, I did a session out in the theater about some of the work that we're doing within our own data center. We're on that journey of hybrid infrastructure. As I say, I manage 4 50,000 square foot data centers in Palo Alto, Houston, Fort Collins, Colorado, and one in Bangalore, where many of our R&D developers sit. And their expectations are I can go to a catalog, I can pick out the resource that I need, whether that's a bare metal machine, whether that's a virtual machine, whether that's a containerized machine. I can get that machine set up the way that I need it in a secure compartment, and I can start to do my work. And not only can I do my work and get that resource very quickly provisioned, but as a developer, you're going to help me automate my entire continuous integration, continuous delivery pipeline. So my build times go down, I'm more productive, and I can get more innovative products out the door faster. So automation, orchestration, cloud-like behaviors are becoming more and more, not just something that some people want, but something that most people expect as they develop new products, as they interact in digital environments. And fundamentally, we're on a path with hybrid infrastructure, not just to converge and virtualize, not just to automate and orchestrate, but also to transform the way in which applications and infrastructure and services are delivered, right? In a very fast, fluid way. Now, we have about 3,000 plus private cloud installations around the world. We've learned an awful lot of what it takes to do some of this automation, this orchestration, and we've got a lot of scars, quite frankly, both internally with our own developers as we've tried to do this, and sort of externally with a lot of our customers. Today, I'd say we're probably the leader in private cloud. But our strategy isn't private cloud. Our strategy is hybrid cloud. The notion that service delivery is a choice, is an opportunity for all organizations to say, I've got a set of applications that really require the data privacy, the security, mission criticality that I need to run in my own data center, that I need to manage in a managed hosting environment. Or I've got the needs for very fast development of systems of engagement, mobile applications, web scale applications, and I want to take advantage of Microsoft Azure or AWS or some of the leading public cloud environments. But it isn't a question of this or that, it's a question of both. It's a question of how do I use all of those modes of service delivery that have different price points, cost factors, security factors, compliance factors, all the agilities and abilities that IT deals with every day. How can I use all of those things to really optimize my service delivery, optimize my efficiency, enable a faster ability to respond to specific competitive threats or opportunities, and fundamentally disrupt or change the game in my particular industry. And so hybrid cloud is an enablement for that. Hybrid infrastructure is an enablement for that. And when we look at Synergy as a platform, it's really the culmination of many years of the work, the experience of building virtualization, convergence, automation, orchestration into our products, into our services, and then saying, well, what's the next step? What's that next step beyond virtualization that's going to allow for even greater agility, even greater support for both traditional and some of the new, more containerized applications that are now in favor in most development shops. Again, back to our own R&D organization, we've got to maintain a variety of different software platforms. We've got to test and build those platforms. We've got to make sure that we're doing secure development and delivering secure products into the market. We also have to race toward these new, more microservices architectures that are more componentized and that are delivered in more of a container organization. And so when we look at a platform like Synergy, it's a platform that really allows us to compose infrastructure, the compute and storage and fabric, in a very fast, fluid way. Bring that up, install the OS, install the containers, install the virtualization hosts, and get it ready for application development, application delivery kinds of environments. And when you look at Synergy, you might say, well, it kind of looks like some of those other products that you've seen in the past. You know, it's got blinking lights and lots of cables and a few cables and this, that, and the other thing. But when you really double and triple click on some of the capabilities of Synergy, what you see is some pretty big differences. You see some pretty big differences in the way that that one infrastructure can support both traditional and these more cloud-native applications as pools of more fungible resources that I can provision, that I can release, that I can move and refactor, that I can deliver to developers choices of, oh, I need a bare metal machine with Linux OS. Oh, no, I need a bare metal machine with Windows. No, I need a Hyper-V machine. No, I need a Hyper-V machine with a container in it. And all of those different choices are now available in one platform called Synergy that allows us to fundamentally carry forward this notion of hybrid infrastructure into the next stage. We're very excited about this. This isn't the end of the journey. Of course, this is the continuation of that journey, the continuation of convergence now into composability. And we don't do that alone, right? The other thing that you'll see on the show floor, and that I really hope that you take a look at, is the fact that because Synergy is based on these open APIs, these open integrations, we can work with companies like Docker, like Chef, like Ansible, like Puppet, the cloud providers like Azure or the OpenStack community, to marry up this notion of infrastructure with orchestration and automation all the way up into the application. So that if I'm working in Chef or Puppet, I can use what's called the one-view driver. I can insert that into my Chef recipe. I can configure the bare metal machine, the OS, and the applications in a very fast, automated way. Particularly if I'm in a DevOps environment, that's a very significant opportunity for me. I can do that with Helium, and so I can insert that one-view driver that represents the one-view composable APIs right into the Helium flavor stack, and I can bring up a variety of different machines very, very quickly, and a lot of different options. Again, bare metal, virtualization, containerization, because one size doesn't fit all, either from an infrastructure perspective, from a development OS applications perspective. So what we're trying to do is take that next leap forward into composability of the infrastructure in relationship to the application in a very automated way, and then carry that forward into that hybrid infrastructure environment so our customers have the choices of public and private and managed, depending on cost, security, compliance, availability, other aspects, right? And to be able to do that in a way that supports not just new applications in greenfield environments, but supports also some of their existing environments so that they have one infrastructure that vastly simplifies and vastly accelerates their drive toward this more digital, more ID economy that we're talking about. Questions?
Yeah, let's stop there. Let's see what we got.
Bring them on. Questions? Yeah.
It's kind of more of a strategy question. Going back to IoT, your big data, and everything else, where does HP come from in the machine learning sector? Because we see a lot of hardware going out. We're probably talking about, okay, we've got all this great hardware, but how do we leverage the data that's on it?
Yeah, great question. Machine learning is a really hot topic right now, right? And years and years ago, I took about 10 years and was involved in the artificial intelligence world when AI was cool. Then it became not cool, and now it's cool again, right? And back in those days, we used to call it elegant algorithms. And over the last probably 10 years, we've made some enormous strides in what's called deep learning, machine learning. And that's based on elegant algorithms. And what you will see HP do is work on our elegant algorithms really from top to bottom. And what I mean by that is from the machine, from the ASIC, from the FPGA level, okay, where you can really start to do embedded machine intelligence in some of our products, up then through the layers of big data analytics, Haven, and things like that. HP Labs is working pretty heavily on machine intelligence, machine learning kinds of algorithms. In the enterprise group today, we're working on that from a perspective of acceleration and being able to optimize and accelerate things like R and Spark and some of those capabilities so that you can analyze data much quicker and much faster. From an IoT perspective, we see an awful lot of opportunity there. In an IoT space, one of the problems that you have is that you can almost think about it as a couple-tiered architecture, right? Some applications allow you to instrument via sensors a particular set of things, aggregate that, and then send it to the cloud, right, for analytics, right, and then send it back for control. But a lot of applications require a much faster response time. So one of the things that we're announcing actually during the show is a new product line called Edgeline that brings some of the processing and the analytics right to the edge, right? Okay? So I've got a set of things that I'm monitoring. I aggregate those things. Instead of sending it directly to the cloud, I actually do the processing and the analytics at the edge and then go back to the thing to control it, right? And that's a time-critical issue. So what we will see in the Edgeline product line is based on our Moonshot capabilities. And so Moonshot is the platform that, quite frankly, is best positioned for some of that machine learning and elegant algorithm kinds of things, because I can use GPUs, I can use FPGA types of environments, and I can do programming of that processing machine to do sense and respond in a more time-critical area. So this is an area of great interest to HP, as it is to the industry. We have within HP Labs some very leadership capabilities in both machine intelligence and next generation, what I call neuromorphic chips, right? Which is a fancy word that just means more kind of chips that model synapses and things like that. That's based on the membristry technologies that we have. We think that there's a lot of opportunity. But like anything else, it has to mature, okay? It has to get more standardized and those types of things. And so we're working with the industry, working with some of the Hadoop vendors and those kinds of things on just those types of solutions.
So do you foresee HP offering it as a service one day in the near future?
We offer Haven as a service right now. In fact, what's interesting about that is you expose all those APIs as a service, all those web services, and so it's fabulous. Autonomy is a great example of that, because I can go basically consume a set of autonomy web services to do all types of analytics on human and machine readable data, okay? That's very, very helpful, very, very interesting. And we're really on that path of opening up all of our APIs to be, as a service, if you will, able to integrate into the broader environment. One is an example of that even in the data center, because what you get with the open OneView APIs is that ability then to integrate into your service delivery or into your CMDB or into your other parts of the data center in a much easier way than you could in the past. And so very, very important piece to be able to think of analytics as a service and other things like that.
So, Mark, can you help with kind of the value prop of synergy over other data center orchestration solutions, like a Mesosphere or open source solutions that are a little bit more agnostic versus Synergy, which seems to be HP focused from a hardware perspective, and tying it to open source tools like Puff and Chef? What's the value prop if I'm not primarily an HP shop?
Well, that's a good question. If the embodiment of composability in a Synergy platform is about an integrated, converged system, right, that allows you to very, very quickly discover and bring up, automate, orchestrate infrastructure relationship applications, right? Mm-hmm. You mentioned Mesosphere. Mesosphere is the bomb, and it's great stuff. Mm-hmm. Use Mesosphere with Docker, with Synergy, wonderful combination. So what Synergy is a next generation intelligent infrastructure that has this set of open APIs that connect to then the rest of the tooling within the data center to allow even more levels of automation. Mesosphere doesn't bring up bare metal hardware. It doesn't provision OSs in an instant, right? It doesn't auto-discover all that hardware. It doesn't have template-based profiles that allow you to secure it, to allow you to quickly update your firmware and those kinds of things. So what people get a little bit confused about is the fact that what we're building with things like Synergy is the infrastructure platform for that fast, fluid automation that is promised. Now, can you do it without Synergy? Sure. It's going to take you more time, more effort, You're going to have to cobble more tools together, and you're going to have to do that in a number of different steps. With Synergy, okay, I bring it up from the time that I install the data center to the time that I start to provision all of those bare metal machines. I do that in a very fast, fluid, unified way. First time, and then after first time throughout its life cycle. Okay? In a complementary way to the mesospheres, to the Chef, to the Puppet, to the Azure, to the Helion, and to the other tooling within your data center. And that's the focus of Synergy. It's in that smart, intelligent, pooled infrastructure that complements the higher level automation tooling and applications within the data center.
So from a hardware perspective, if I'm in a brownfield environment, I have, HP foundation from a compute perspective, but I've gone with another vendor's storage solution.
Why would you want to do that?
Good question. Fair question.
But
So where does Synergy still offer value for customers who don't accept that whole HP stack?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that what you're really talking about is we live in a heterogeneous world. Most customers that we talk to, they want dual sources of vendors. They're looking for some level of safety. If HP tipped over, then who's their second choice and those kinds of things. So we have to be open and we have to be practical with regard to tools like Synergy. So Synergy integrates very well into an existing data center environment. And there's a couple of different scenarios there. Scenario number one is an HP shop that's using, maybe rack-based systems, maybe blade systems, and now they want to move into Synergy, right? Well, they can manage all that infrastructure with one view, right? Manage all that infrastructure with one view. And they can integrate into some of the higher level tooling that we talked about. Scenario number two is they've got Dell and Lenovo and cats and dogs and all kinds of different things. In that scenario, what the IT guys are going to basically realize pretty soon is that, wow, it sure is a lot faster and a lot easier with Synergy than it is with my Dell or my Lenovo stuff, right? And then I think that over time, as we move forward with composability and with these open API concepts, we'll embrace more heterogeneity within the data center. And so I'll give you an example. A couple of years ago, we decided that we were going to open up our infrastructure and make all our infrastructure programmable with REST-based interfaces, right? So REST-based programmability of the BIOS and other aspects of the circuit. And we said, well, that's really cool, and that's very important for the journey we were on with one view composability. But we said, this needs to be standardized within the industry. So we then got together with our great friends Dell, Microsoft, Intel, and others, and said, let's go ahead and standardize on a set of REST-based APIs for server infrastructure.
You're talking about Red Rock?
Redfish.
Redfish? Sorry, what was it?
Yeah, Red Rock is something else. But,
It's a cheap site.
it's a what?
Cheap alcohol. Sorry, yeah, so you're talking about Redfish specification, which is hardware and APIs.
Exactly.
Effectively, Chilean specified
And we took that to the DMTF. But we started that work, okay? We originated that work. And
Intel says they do.
of course they do.
Yeah.
Of course they do. That's an interesting he said, she said, but
Yeah, sure.
I was there, so
Sure.
I can attest to when we started that.
Redfish seems to be going very slowly. It doesn't seem to have built up sort of like a running pace.
I would say it differently. I would say that I used to be the president of the standards organization, and so what I would say is that standards take time to mature. They take time to get adopted, right? So the progression of Redfish came from an internal project that we called Rich Infrastructure Services, that then moved into Redfish 1.0, that then got submitted to the DMTF, then got ratified by the DMTF, and is now in its adoption phase, right?
Yeah.
And so it's going to take a while to adopt, okay, because people aren't going to throw away
Yeah.
the old ways, right? As they embrace these new technologies. Now,
I mean, I criticize standard bodies quite a bit. I think it's basically retarded idiots.
Yeah.
They're running so slow, right?
Yeah.
And if you've been the president of standard body, you and I can have a lovely argument about why the hell do standard bodies not pulling figures out their hands to get quicker.
Oh, I can.
Why does HP as a vendor not tell standard bodies to hurry up and get on? Because it's in their interest, surely,
Yeah.
to actually treat standards bodies with the disgust that they have.
Well, I don't want to get off too much of a topic into a standards body, we can do this offline if you will. But let me just say just a couple of things about standards, right? Standards in general are very important to the next generation of compute and the next generation of infrastructure, applications, and the like. But it's very unpredictable when and how a particular standard is going to be adopted. Okay, and let me give you an example of that. The standards body that I was president of was the Open Grid Forum. We were in the early stages in distributed computing of trying to standardize on some of the web services associated with distributed computing. And those web services were the WSF web services, which were fairly complex and based on SOAP and some things like this. Fairly heavyweight and the like. And OASIS, and the Open Grid Forum, and a few other of the organizations are all working together on these web services. But what happened? The internet basically decided that all that stuff was way too complicated, and they decided to do what? To move to a de facto standard called REST.
No, that was largely because the standard bodies are so retarded and actually getting something done.
It's not the standards bodies. Hang on.
I don't want to divert the discussion to standard bodies.
It's not the standards bodies that are retarded. It's the fact that the different vendors in the industry have competing interests and intellectual property associated with the protocols, the interfaces,
No, I
and things like
understand all of
that.
that. But what I'm saying is standard bodies need to fix themselves and stop that panic. They should have processes. They need two things. One is a board of common sense, but the other one is not to let themselves be derailed by their interests. I want to go back to synergy.
Yeah.
I said before that synergy is doing bare metal as well as, would be a mother, a sentence on top of the mesosphere. Does that also apply to, say, OpenStack or Realize? You would be a meta manager for all of those platforms.
We're not the meta manager. They're the meta manager. We'd be the sort of the underlay. Right?
So synergy becomes a hardware orchestrator or a server orchestrator?
Well, it becomes. Let's take a real example of OpenStack. Okay. So, in OpenStack, I have this concept of flavors, right? And flavors allow me to basically say, okay, I want to put a specific virtual machine on a specific box and provision them. If you're using Synergy with its open APIs and its ability to then put a one-view driver into that flavor recipe, then I can configure the entire compute storage fabric, bare metal, put the OS on there, and make it ready for the OpenStack.
OpenStack can't illustrate the hardware process.
That's correct.
It can't configure a LUN.
That's
It can't
right.
configure the set hardware. It can't configure
That's exactly right.
The drag or the iLab.
Right.
And two bare metal provisioning. So is Synergy just a bare metal provisioning system, or is it? I had the vision that Synergy will take us out of our mesosphere and did the precondition, not just the server. Like as a hardware orchestration tool, Synergy doesn't sound interesting. It's actually I don't care. It's cheaper for me to hire people than it is for me to pay for Synergy right now.
I'm not sure about
It's cheaper to
that.
hire apprentices to do that.
Look, I run 4 big data centers. We set up equipment all the time. I have taken Synergy through its paces. I guarantee you that Synergy is a big improvement and a big asset to what we're doing within our own data centers today. And when you say it's just a hardware orchestrator,
That's what I'm asking. I'm trying to understand.
yeah,
The way you pitched it to me just there is it's a hardware orchestration tool.
Yeah.
It's just very useful, and if it's really redfish, there's definite value. I mean, I'm not interested in the rack scale architecture that he's telling me. I think that's a losing game, right? But I'm very interested, where does the Synergy sit? Does it sit above Mesosphere, underneath, or alongside?
I would say those above, beyond, those are all fraught with issues. But I would say it sits alongside a Mesosphere. It sits alongside a Chef or a Puppet or an Ansible or a variety of configuration management or cloud capabilities, orchestration capabilities. Because what it's doing is it is orchestrating the hardware. It's composing the hardware. There's no doubt about that. It's bringing together the compute, the storage, the fabric. It's doing the LUN work. It's configuring and all that kind of stuff, so that you now have a fully configured, based on your policy, right? Fully configured set of infrastructure ready for applications. Okay, ready for applications. It'll install the OS and all those kinds of things also. But the thing is that because Synergy has those open APIs, it does a very good job of integrating with Docker, with Helion, OpenStack, with other tooling within your data center, so that you can do a more seamless configuration and provisioning of both the applications and the infrastructure in a very automated, seamless way. Okay?
So what you're saying to me is that Synergy is a hardware orchestrator. You would have an OpenStack up here, and OpenStack would call Synergy to provision my physical,
Yes.
my 3-bar, my HPDLs, that Gen 9 servers, whatever it is, my networking assets, whether they're HP and blah blah blah. I'm positive to you, as somebody who builds HPC and cloud infrastructure for a number of companies, that is not entirely relevant. I think that for certain types of enterprise, there's a limited market today. But I'm not sure that mid-scale cloud providers would see value in it being cheaper to use repeatable platforms where you just provision once and you go.
Well, I don't think that Synergy is targeted toward necessarily the Azure cloud guys or the eBay, Amazon.
No, I'm talking, that's why I said mid-scale.
Mid-scale.
Tier under.
Yeah, but many of those folks that are tier under are looking at both traditional and cloud-native applications. They're looking at both scale up and scale out. They're looking at a variety of different workloads. And so before we say, oh gosh, it's not interesting for a second or third tier service provider who is servicing the enterprise market, I kind of check at the door, because I think that what we see from the customers that we talk to is that Synergy is very, very attractive to either enterprise customers with lots of mixed workloads, service providers who are focused on the enterprise market, and the like. It's going to be fairly cost competitive. It's going to be a lot easier to set up, provision, lifecycle manage than potentially buy all the pieces, put it all together, and use it in a variety of other things. And so I would modulate that a little bit.
So if I'm a large enterprise, something similar to HP's footprint, where I have something available or Palo Alto, I'm servicing my developer customer, and there's an explosion in internal requirements or capability needs. I can take it, basically a Synergy pod, let's say, so I can have a reference design for a Synergy pod, ship it, plop it to the data center. The Synergy orchestration piece or automation tools pick up, self-discover that stuff, feed it up into my OpenStack plugin, and then I'm set, ready to go. OpenStack can continue to provision that stuff. I can also I'm heterogeneous, so I can have a separate pod with a company that has, let's say it's a Mesosphere and I have white box hardware, then all of that is just plugins and this just API calls into OpenStack to make provision resources based on the class of service.
Yeah, so Synergy is designed to work in a heterogeneous environment. We sell not just Synergy, which is kind of the most integrated composable system that we have, but we sell a whole lot of rack, a whole lot of next generation scale out platforms for a whole variety of different organizations. So yes, the answer is Synergy is one of the capabilities that many of our customers will utilize in their infrastructure. Would they use that exclusively. Would that be the only thing that they would use? Probably not, right? Probably not. Because I think that one of the reasons why we have Superdome X, why we have Apollo Scale Out, why we have Cloudline, and why we have Reliant Racks, and now we have Synergies is because different customers have different requirements. Different workloads have different requirements. And there are different business models and cost models associated with it. And you mentioned that before. Some of the second-tier service providers, they want to be like Amazon. They want to, fundamentally give it to me as lean and as mean as I possibly can get. I'll do all the work myself, and quite frankly, I'm really not interested in any of your extras. Right? We've got a platform for that. We've got several platforms for that, and they're very successful. Cloudline, for instance, very, very successful for that. Of course, we service some of the largest web properties in the world, and we have specific platforms and products for them. Do they use a lot of our automation tool? They use some of it, but not a lot, because they write most of it themselves, and they utilize a lot of open source. So lots of different customers out there, lots of different requirements, but Synergy is really designed as a next generation infrastructure that is composable, it's integratable into an existing data center environment.
What I'm hearing is, and I just want to say this to make sure I understand, because I have to present this to my life.
Yeah.
If I'm an enterprise who's provisioning servers on a fairly regular basis, let's say I continually buy a server here, a bit more of an array, a bit more of a hard drive, a bit more of networking, piece by piece, case by case, gap analysis by gap analysis, ITIL by ITIL, right? Death by analysis. Synergy is going to smooth that provisioning process because it's going to provide some sort of mid-step automation for the hardware deployment. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think that the more dynamic your application environment is, the more that Synergy is going to be useful for you. The more that you have a mix of bare metal virtualization and containerization, the more Synergy is going to be. If all you're doing is putting a bunch of infrastructure in, using bare metal and never touching it again, Synergy may not be as attractive to you. If you're moving more toward a more dynamic, more automated, more DevOps orientation, okay, and you want to run both microservice-oriented applications plus traditional applications on one architecture, Synergy, great. If you're using some of the new DevOps tooling, and wow, Synergy
software, right? So, the projects I've been involved with that have done this, they actually don't care about the hardware in the least. This server, that storage array, nobody executes suite above the infrastructure team itself. Nobody cares. Nobody's going to call an API to request a certain storage or a certain. Most of them actually don't even need. With the arrival of SSDs, they don't even care about the storage subsystem because there's no such thing as slow storage. The current bottleneck is actually the networking. They send it to read and write from arrays, usually, or the I/O in the server itself. Or not. I mean, there are some people who imagine that hardware needs this, but I'm not sure that the market is significant.
The thesis that you just put in place that nobody cares about the hardware, nobody cares about the infrastructure of the tube either. What they care about is getting from here to London City in a quick, fast, pleasurable time, right? So the fact is that infrastructure is best when it's frictionless and when it's invisible, right? Okay? And that's what you're saying, and I agree with that part.
Where's the pushback? Because that's exactly what we're trying to do with Synergy. It's actually kind of almost like remove the hardware layer and allow application developers to focus on the application.
Well, so I have one customer who has 3,000 servers, currently running about 20 petabytes of storage. And they do it, it's all white box. So by no means, they run it for 5 people. That includes executives, day-to-day staff. 2 of those people, especially that do hardware rotation, they don't have Synergy. They don't need it, right? Everything runs on top of that, right? And they run, I think the last time I spoke to them, they run sort of 4,500 apps from widely varied disciplines.
Good for them.
They have a zero OpEx model when they design the web. So I'm looking at that thing, but then I'm also thinking about what I've done at big banks with legacy infrastructure who are constantly Bank of Scotland type of things where they're a big HP customer, long-term HP customer who are constantly in a state of turmoil trying to find ways to provision service smarter ways that they would benefit from synergy.
Yeah.
So that's one side.
So what's the relevance of the white box though?
But I don't need synergy to make it. I don't need synergy to be able to build an IT infrastructure that works. There are customers who use it. That's just
I think what you're proving out what I said before, which is that different customers have different requirements, there are different maturity levels, and their application workloads are very different. So if your 3,000 server customer that you're talking about is using white box, they're probably, what types of applications are they running on this, right? What are their needs to provision, reprovision, release, move, change, all those kinds of things. There's a whole lot of questions before you get to, do I go with stack them deep, sell them cheap,
Because your point of, if I'm just running 5 applications, why do I care? But if you're running 5,000 applications, I care a whole lot.
Yeah, well, I'm running, these guys are running 4,500.
4,500,
Yeah, it's an odd thing, right?
Yeah.
But it's an extreme. I'm using it as a
It
spectrum.
is an extreme.
One of the challenges I always have is when I talk to people like you and you say every customer is a special snowflake. And I actually don't believe that. I think every customer is doing exactly the same.
I didn't say every customer is a special snowflake. What I said was that different customers have different requirements. You can put those into specific categories. And let me be really clear about something, right? There's this basketball player in the U.S. named Michael Jordan. A pretty good basketball player. Has his own tennis shoe. He's pretty decent. He's a pretty good guy. He's pretty good, right? And people want to be like Mike. They look up to Mike because he's a great basketball player that buys his tennis shoe. People look up to what Amazon and what Alibaba and what some of these people are able to do at scale, okay? With 5 applications, 10 applications, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of computer devices and the like. Right? They look up to that as a model for both agility, for moving forward with regard to microservice-oriented applications that can deliver value at scale. That's what people say is, I want that too. Our major accounts, our medium accounts, our small accounts are like, that's why they're embracing cloud, virtualization, and containerization, is because they aspire, okay, to have very low cost, very standard IT capabilities that are highly automated and that scale to the moon. Right? That's what we're all talking about here. What we're doing with composability is trying to bring that to a broader spectrum of people than just the people that have 5 applications. We're trying to bring that to the people who have 50, 100, 1,000, 5,000 applications, who have very mission-critical applications that absolutely, positively can't go down, that require different types of capabilities and the like. You mentioned the notion of algorithms before, right? PayPal, they looked at our entire portfolio, they said, I got to have Moonshot. I got to have Moonshot because I can put security algorithms into that Moonshot platform to be able to secure my payment systems, okay? That was a very specialized requirement. Now, does PayPal use Moonshot for everything? No, okay? But there are a variety of requirements that are very workload and customer specific. And what we do as a HPE vendor is we provide people a spectrum of capabilities. So if you're a large second-tier service provider with 5 applications, our Apollo line or our cloud line are perfect for you, okay? And go off and scale to the moon.
Okay, let's move to Azure. We've got announced an Azure private cloud partnership with Microsoft. Is that your sort of stage? Is Azure going to talk to Accenture?
Yeah, absolutely.
Goes today. Layer Azure Stack goes up to today.
And it will coordinate it with the provision?
Not yet.
Not yet.
That's working.
But it'll be
So that's
the pattern. The pattern that there's a pattern here.
Yeah.
One view, unified API, right? I can encapsulate that into what we call internally a one view driver. Okay? that OneView driver can be inserted into an OpenStack flavor, a chef recipe, and a Xur flavor. Okay, the Xur can call that driver to compose physical infrastructure. Okay, lay down the operating system in the line. Right. Okay, and that pattern, I think, will be instantiated with the Xur and with a variety of different kind of upstack software configuration management.
We're going to snap in for the enterprise.
We already do. We already do. Yeah.
The second question, so VCE has proven the model of selling. I mean, I think VCE is a dominant. The point is that VCE has been tremendously successful. $1 billion run rates. People are actually buying that stuff. Yet I'm not 100%. Is HP playing in that space like VCE trying to make their synergy and failed for whatever reason? Are you planning to build VCE like a division that actually sells a rack at a time, or is that?
Yeah. So the answer to the question is this gentleman back here who just came in, Paul Miller. You know, and works in our CDI organization that does our own converged systems, right? And Synergy is going to make a wonderful converged system, okay, or integrated system, or whatever you call that. It is a platform that, you know, our HANA guys and our Hadoop guys and a whole bunch of folks are dying to get a hold of, okay, as a converged system. I have my own experience with the converged systems in our internal data centers. When we did the separation, I ordered one of our converged systems, a CS700, for our Fort Collins data center because we were doing separation of our IP addressing between HP and HPE, which is a big freaking job, quite frankly. We needed the extra capacity. I ordered one of his boxes. I ordered it, got it in about 3 weeks to a month. They dropped it off in Fort Collins. My team, who'd never seen one of those boxes before, had it installed in less than a day and was serving virtual machines to my developers that night. Okay?
I know the VC story. I've spent tens of millions of dollars buying VC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's not to like about that?
Yeah, the tens of millions of dollars.
It's what?
The tens of millions of dollars for my purpose.
Well, that's VCE. That's not us.
That's not us. Yeah, because we have to position it. So, good and bad, you know.
I don't want to dominate the conversation. If anybody else wants to speak out,
You can carry on.
They're having a fun time with you. So go ahead.
I want to kind of answer that question, how we think about the marketplace. So yeah, good and bad, you know, we are actually a leader in a lot of sectors of convergence in the converged marketplace. With our cloud system, we're the #1 private cloud converged system sold today. With HANA, we're the #1 converged system for HANA. With Microsoft application server, application, APS, so their analytics service platform, we're the #1 there. So we actually one of the biggest players there today. What Synergy enables us to do that a VCE won't be able to do is because it's built around these standardized tools, or these static resources, we're going to take Synergy and we're going to enable customers to say, okay, how do I just buy infrastructure? Then I go to your website and I download the template that gives it the personality for SQL, the template that gives it personality for. So we're going to set up.
It's not so much I'm going to buy